Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today for the 30-day COVID preparedness talk we're going to be giving. My name's Lynn St. Louis, and I am an estate planning and elder law attorney at ELG Estate Planning.
And I'm Jennipher. I'm a registered nurse and a certified care manager and founder of Family First Senior Care. And today's talk is going to be interactive, so we really want to encourage you to use the chat box with any questions you might have, and we'll do our best to get to those throughout the presentation today.
So one of the reasons that Jennipher and I wanted to get together and talk with each other and with you is that we know that, especially in these times, you know, with COVID, there's a lot of questions, and sometimes it just seems like overwhelming that people don't know, you know, what they should do, where they should start. So we really wanted to break it down and simplify it for you. So as Jennipher mentioned, if you have questions, put them in the chat box or comment on the video. If I don't answer the questions today and you have more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I put the information in the chat box. Elder Law Group's phone numbers 509-468-0551. So feel free to reach out and ask any of the questions that you have. Jennipher,
all right,
and we sent an email to those who registered. So if you would kind of take that away and see if you've got that, I could share it with you, everyone as well. I don't know if you have that up. I'd be happy to share it. All right, let me share my screen here. For those of you that are on the Zoom call, I don't know if you can actually see it if you're on Facebook, but this is the 30-day COVID preparedness checklist. You can see it's pretty simplified. Jennipher and I are going to get into a lot more details on it. If you have it, great. If you don't have it, we'll make sure that we put on the chat there how you can get it. Just send us an email and we will forward that to you. All right. So I'll go ahead and get started if that's okay with you, Jennipher.
Yeah, that works.
All right. So as I said, we're trying to make things more simplified so that they are not so overwhelming. So what is a 30-day preparedness plan? We're going to be talking about law, legal, and basically what that means is from an estate planning and elder law perspective, what do you need to do? What steps do you need to take to make sure you, your family, and your assets are protected? And then Jennipher will be talking about from the care management perspective, and I'll leave that for her to talk about. But from week one, from the law perspective, and when I say law, what I mean is estate planning and is in elder law. What's really important when you're looking at how do you protect yourself, how do you get the right estate planning documents in place, you are going to want to find an attorney that is qualified, that is capable, that will be able to take care of all of your needs when it comes to estate planning and elder law. So what your task is for week one is to do your due diligence, do your research. You know, you can look at Google online and reach out to an estate planning and elder law attorney that you are comfortable with. Call them, reach out to them, make an appointment, and meet with them. So for those of you who are listening today, you might say, well, how much is that going to cost me? For those of you who are, you know, mentioned that, hey, I was listening to Lynn and Jennipher talk, and I'd like to schedule an appointment. You know, oftentimes lawyers do charge for that initial appointment. But for those of you who contact us, we are going to make that complimentary. We're going to waive that charge to make it really easy for you to reach out to us.
Yeah, and likewise, I think we found it's a stressful times with COVID. We've got a lot being thrown at us, and like Lynn said, we want to also give back. And so I think the most important thing is that proactive planning. let's prepare ahead of the need and ahead of the crisis. And so the areas that I'm going to cover today are all healthcare related, and really having a good care plan in place throughout this process. And the good news is, hopefully you won't need this for COVID. Hopefully you'll be healthy and just keep going as is. But the good news is that this plan can be used throughout, the future as well. And just getting it established is a great thing to do no matter what for any of us as aging adults. So we want to be able to offer as well a free consultation for you if you have attended this presentation today, and we'll be able to help you get started on the right track as well. So first step for healthcare is to schedule a time to meet with a geriatric care manager. And if you're not familiar with what a geriatric care manager is, these are professional nurses and social workers. Family First has a team who are able to provide advocacy, consultation. We are able to help provide that critical planning, that care planning that we're going to talk in more detail about today.
I have to say, Jennipher, because, you and I have worked together in the past, and, I'm an estate planning lawyer. I'm an elder law attorney. But what really strikes me is that, in my family with my mom and dad, we went through a period of 14 years of long-term care. And I could not have gotten through that without the help of Family First Senior Care. I mean, I know a whole lot about long-term care because I deal with that every day with my clients. But that doesn't mean that I know what is going to be the best care facility or what's the best way to advocate for, my mom or my dad. And so even though my area of focus is this, helping people with long-term care, I personally reached out to Family First Senior Care, and I tell all my clients this, like, say, you guys are worth your weight in gold. I'm like, aging care manager. I love how you put on there geriatric care manager, because most people don't like to say, what, geriatric? I don't need that. Aging care manager, I know, is probably what people say, but just incredible, the benefits. And one of the things that I will say about how useful it is to have this resource available to you is that it just takes this weight off of you. Like if you're looking to figure out, care is always the paramount concern, no matter what. I mean, everything that we do in estate planning is to make sure that our clients' lives are going to be better. And if anybody is dealing with a care management crisis, a health crisis, I mean, that's number one. That's the number one thing you're focusing on. And me as the adult daughter helping my parents who are going through it, I didn't necessarily know what was, I didn't know what was right. And the peace of mind that came to me by working with a care manager, working with Jennipher's group, I mean, I can't tell you what a relief it was. So I am really you guys' your biggest fan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean, I think the story we'll tell today is one that is very important, is have a team. It takes more than, we can't do it on our own. And the more you can have a professional team to support you, the better. And Lynn, she shared in utilizing our care management services for her own family and clients. Same goes for us. When we have clients who we've identified may not have things in order, absolutely, they need to see an elder law attorney, and elder law group's awesome at meeting their needs in a quick and timely fashion, and just really making sure that everything's planned for. They don't have to, worry about not being prepared should a life event happen. And we all know that a life event will happen. It's just when that's going to happen. So yeah, thank you, Lynn. Same goes here. So let's talk a little bit more about that. I just wanted to share a little bit about the first step of care planning and what that looks like. So in doing that, I'm gonna share my screen here in just a moment. A big component of making your plan is having a care plan in place. And I've got this nice form that we will share after the presentation today as well, just so you can have access to it. Hope you can all see my screen. But this is actually published by CDC. It's not the exact care plan we use at Family First, but I think it's a great example of a simple care plan. So basically, I'm just going to kind of scroll through it briefly here. But the things that we're going to cover is, you know, of course, your basic information. But this box right here in the middle is one of the most important. This is when you tell others what you want them to know about you. If you weren't able to clearly, maybe you're too ill to speak for yourself or whatever it might be, and you want people to know what you like, what you enjoy in life, some of the things you really value, this is a great place for us to get, you know, your history and all other information about uniquely you. And then of course we go over medical conditions, how important it is to have this information in case of urgent need and otherwise. So what illnesses or health conditions you have and who your healthcare providers are. And medicines, which is also down here, all your medications. You've probably heard it before, keeping a medication list. We like you to keep it on your refrigerator and keep it handy. This will have the dose when you take it. And then down below is your healthcare providers. We want to have easy access to who those are. Oftentimes, I see individuals have anywhere from 4 or 5 or more healthcare providers. Well, if I'm, you know, coming in, and this happened with my family recently, coming in and trying to help out in kind of an urgent situation, I had no idea who my mom's specialty doctors were. So having this lined out is really helpful. Of course, who your health insurance is, and then preferred hospitals. You want to make sure we're getting you to, if we have choice, to the right healthcare system. And then caregiver resources. Are you receiving any care services? So I'm going to get into that a little bit later. So I turn it back to you, Lynn, regarding the planning part of it.
So, you know, one of the things that I wanted, just using this form that you're sharing with us, Jennipher, is that what it has on it right there is like advanced care planning, and that's getting into legal planning, which is kind of what our messaging is that not just one professional or one area. An estate planning elder law attorney isn't going to be able to do what you are doing. And I'm sure with this form, you help the clients go through it and fill it out, so it's just not such an overwhelming task. You work with them. But this is, you know, an advanced directive, your living will, your power of attorney. We'll talk about the pulse form too. I think that would be important, but that's a large, you know, this is just in and of itself. The CDC form is something that talks about legal documents as well. And as an elder law attorney, we're very familiar with these types of documents and the considerations and what's important to include, and to be able to refer clients to a resource such as, you know, Family First Senior Care. So I just find it really interesting that the actual form you pulled up to go over about the care plan is one that also, you know, is talking about legal documents too.
Yeah, it's definitely critical to making sure that our wishes are heard and understood by those who are doing their best to care for us. And I find that it's like the most compassionate thing you can do for your loved ones, because it can be very hard if we haven't done that pre-work to identify what our wishes are. And it can be pretty stressful on family and our loved ones if that's not outlined.
Yeah, yeah. So does that pretty much for you cover what is the week one, what we cover with the first week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So then for week two, and the reason that we're setting this out as a 30-day checklist and as a 30-day plan is really to, reassure you that this can be done in 30 days. It's just a matter of making a decision to, take action, which is not overwhelming. It's just a step-by-step process. So we've gone through week one then, which is you have, contacted the lawyer that you want to work with that's knowledgeable about estate planning and elder law, and you contacted and you've met with as well your aging care manager. So maybe we're a little bit ambitious running these both tracks side by side, but I think we can do this. So week two, from the legal perspective, is all right, you have met with the attorney, they've done the legal strategy meeting, they have sat down and talked with you about, what your goals are, what your concerns are, what your family situation is, what do you want to accomplish? And they'll have probably suggested, well, then for your situation, you're going to want to have a will, for example, or a will with an asset protection trust, or a special needs trust, whatever type of appropriate will and trust situation for your personal situation. And today, we aren't going to get into the details of all the various estate planning tools. That's not our purpose today. That would be kind of overwhelming. But when you sit and meet with the lawyer, they will go and take the time and explain it to you. So it won't just be your will. You probably explore whether a revocable living trust is a good idea or a bad idea. I do want to mention that because we do elder law, because we are very familiar with government benefits planning, including how Medicaid will pay for long-term care costs, we often don't recommend a revocable living trust for a married couple. The reason for that is the state of Washington won't honor that kind of estate planning to protect assets for the spouse when you're gone. And so that really exposes and risks all the couple's assets. So it may be appropriate, a revocable living trust, or it might not be. Oftentimes it isn't for a couple. So, the wills, the trusts, durable powers of attorney for finances, for health, healthcare directives, which are, where you put your end of life wishes and how those are prepared to, to communicate what your desires are, point who you want to have act on your behalf if you can't. For example, you're married, you think, well, my spouse can handle the finances for me. No, they can't. They might be joint on your account. They might be joint on the house title. But if you had to sell the house and you lost capacity, your spouse can't do that. If you don't have a good durable power of attorney in place, there's going to be a court-ordered guardianship, which is a very intrusive, costly loss of control. So I don't want to get into that in too much detail, but so by week two, after you've met with your estate planning elder law attorney, they're going to prepare those documents that fit your needs, and they are going to send them off to you. And if you find that whoever you're talking with says, I can get you in 30 days, and 30 days after that, we'll do that, and 30 days after that, I would really question whether they have the resources and the depth on their team to serve you as you should be served, because it shouldn't take that long. So that's why we're saying by week two, you should be expecting to receive drafts of your documents that you talked about with the lawyer.
Perfect. And on the healthcare side, the next step would be to identify who your supports are. This could be family members. It could also be neighbors or other individuals who have taken an active role in assisting, or could take an active role if you're someone who's completely healthy and not currently need any help. In addition to family, it's really important to do a preventative plan for other healthcare providers. So some services like home care service, home health and hospice, those are all wonderful in-home care services that can support you if you are ill and want to rehab or rehabilitate and get better and healthy in your home. And so I think it's really important to start the process of looking at what those home care options are. And this is something your care manager will assist you with. Identifying what resources, what a care plan might look like if caregivers were going to be involved, talking about the costs, any benefits you might qualify for around getting services, whether it be VA or otherwise, and really just outlining a good solid plan. I know we recently I took care of a individual who had just come out of being in the hospital. And we met with both this lady and her daughter, and it was a really hard situation because she had been home and unfortunately developed COVID. And at the time, she didn't have a good solid plan in place for care. Her daughter was normally checking in on her a few times a week and taking care of her. And she had a son who was also involved. Well, unfortunately, they had their own health concerns, both being 60 plus, and were worried about getting COVID and really had to make the, probably, I'm imagining, gut-wrenching decision to say, we can't take care of you, Mom. We can't risk, getting COVID. And unfortunately, because she didn't have a plan in place, she didn't have any care, she couldn't locate on short notice a care agency to now come in with COVID. We wish we would have known about her then, but unfortunately, she was hospitalized, and it was the last thing she wanted. And quite honestly, what we found out as care managers is, thankfully, her medical needs didn't necessitate being in the hospital, but because she didn't have the care lined up, she had to be hospitalized. And as you can imagine, exposed to a myriad of other things, just being in the hospital during these times. So, have this plan in place. And I think that preventative nature is very useful. In addition to that, pre-planning for hospitalizations is really important. It's good to go through a series of questions, and this is something we do while we're working through the care plan. What's important to you if you do become ill? What are you most worried about? Is it being alone? Is it being in pain? Are you concerned about being a burden to those around you, your family or your friends or loved ones? If you became sick with COVID-19, would you prefer to stay at home, like the story I just shared, or would your preference be to be in the hospital? And if you go to the hospital, what type of care would you want? Would you want full measures taken? Should you need intensive care or need to be on a respirator? This is when PULSE forms, and Lynn, I know you mentioned it earlier, but this is when having those advanced directives really our needs occur. What would my wishes be?
So Jennipher, I wanted to ask you a couple of follow-up questions on that, because obviously we're in this, COVID environment. And I know we'll be talking about vaccinations and how you can help, but, going back to the, hey, if you have COVID, how does that, like in the example you gave, would you, if you had been, like it's today and it's a situation, would your agency, would you be able to go in the home and help somebody so that if there's not a medical need for hospitalization care, that they could stay in their home? Would that be something that you could provide?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lynn. Yeah, that was in this situation why we wished we would have been involved sooner and known is because we have the vast majority, 90+% of our staff vaccinated. It's given us the opportunity to be able to provide safely care for our clients, whether it's for in-home care needs, providing caregiving support, or whether it might be bringing a care manager in the home or otherwise to do some advanced planning. And As far as we also have a COVID strike force, which sounds kind of scary, but what that means is if someone is in need of care, they can't wait a day or a week or 2 weeks. They really need the care today. And so a team that's ready to go out and providing care right away. And that's been one of the challenging things we've seen in communities across the country is how do we get the care we need? There's been a lot of challenges accessing it because between not being vaccinated and not having the right personal protective equipment, it's made it nearly impossible for many to provide this care. So we're excited today to be able to say we can deliver that level of care to individuals.
Well, I'm excited to hear that you can do that because that makes such a difference. I mean, because, you know, people just don't know what to do. I mean, we hear stories about, you know, people who have COVID and, you know, they're either hospitalized or they died at home. You don't know what care they got. I mean, it's terribly sad. And having a resource like you might make all the difference between them having a good outcome and not, or at least being able to stay home and not having to go to the hospital, you know, so that's amazing. That's great. Hey, I did want to ask you, and we saw that on the form that you showed, and one of the forms there was the advanced directive that they talked about, which is what we call the Healthcare Directive. And that's where you say, that's a legal document that the lawyer prepares that says, hey, what are your end of life wishes? Do you want heroic measures or not? But another document on that CDC list was called the PULSE form, the Physician's Order on Life-Sustaining Treatment, which is not a document that the lawyer will ever fill out for you. That's that lime green document you might have seen. Can you help explain, is that something that you as a care management team fill out, or is that only for the doctor to fill out with the patient? How does that work?
Yeah, you bet. So the PULSE form is something that we usually facilitate being filled out. I would love to see more of them when I'm going out and meeting with people. Unfortunately, I think it's still, you know, not huge numbers of people know about this PULSE form, but so important that your wishes, again, this is in the case of urgent medical need. So if somebody calls 911, do I want to have resuscitation? Do I want to have CPR and artificial resuscitation? And so it's really important to have those wishes identified. Now, your physician does have to sign the form. It's not something I can sign or another care manager can sign. It does need to be a physician, but oftentimes we'll help kind of walk someone through the form, or your doctor can, either one. And then your next medical appointment, or sometimes we need to get them to the medical doctor sooner to sign off on, and yeah, facilitate that. And then once you have that lovely lime green form, like Lynn said, you want to keep that in a place that everyone can find. And usually the identified place is your refrigerator, or side of your refrigerator. That is where the emergency medical professionals, EMS, are trained to look for that PULSE form. And make sure you have copies to, you know, your family, and a copy, your doctor should have a copy, and you can even have one on file with the hospital that you use.
So one of the things that clients often ask me is, well, you know, I have this form, do I need that form? And what I explain is, yes, you need both your healthcare directive and a PULSE if a PULSE is appropriate, in that the healthcare directive is really more of a longer document that talks about, you know, end of life, you've been diagnosed to be terminal or permanent vegetative, whereas the lime green PULSE form is something that grabs people's attention right away. For example, the emergency responders. And if you put on that DNR or DNAR, do not attempt resuscitation, that's the only way that emergency responder is going to not give you that emergency treatment to get your heart going again. So, you know, bringing the care management, the health in with the legal, again, I think it's really important that people have these conversations so that they're better prepared in case that were to happen.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, shall we move? Are we ready to move on to week 3, Jennipher?
Yes,
Okay.
indeed.
All right.
We're getting stuff done, Lynn.
We are getting it done. You were right. So week 3 from the legal perspective is, okay, you've received drafts of your estate planning documents from your attorney. Read them, review them, make sure that they look accurate, that the names are right, that you understand them. I do tell clients that, you know what, you did not go to law school, so you don't have to understand every single word, though I got to tell you, a lot of my clients do want to do that. Especially engineers love to go through every single word. It's not necessary, but if you want to, we're happy to do that with you. But what you do need to understand is, what does it say? Who gets your estate when you're gone? Do you have the trusts? Does a trust work to protect assets against long-term care costs? Did you name the right people you trust to be your decision makers when it comes to healthcare or for financial matters? So you have the documents in hand, please review them, read them. And at that point in time, you've already got your appointment probably scheduled for the next week to come in and sign, but do take the time to make sure you understand the documents, call the attorney, reach out to the attorney if there's any questions, so that you're going to be able to go and sign them the next week. So from the legal law perspective, week 3 is just reviewing what we provided to you.
All right, and from the healthcare perspective, well, you've done your kind of heavy lifting the first couple weeks. You've got a good solid base plan running. Now we talk about resources. Okay, what things might I need if I become ill tomorrow and I can't get out to the grocery store? I can't get up to make a meal, or I need my medications refilled and I don't have someone to do that for me. There are so many wonderful services right now available to us in our community, more today than I could have said a year ago. We have a variety of grocery delivery services, anything from Rosars to Fred Meyer to Walmart, Instacart. These are things that you can easily access and do your grocery shopping online. If that's complicated, that's a nice time when you can use a service like Rosars, where you can simply call and request your items with a small delivery charge. Same thing goes for the pharmacy deliveries. There's some great pharmacy services who deliver either medications that can be included in a medication box already for you, or who just deliver your pill bottles. So 6th Avenue Pharmacy and others provide this level of delivery service. So really starting to look at also meal deliveries. There's a lot of excellent nutritious meal delivery services where you might, groceries, and house supplies are great, but if you can't cook, it's even better to have a meal, right? That's already ready to go. And so looking at a meal delivery service, or even something as simple as Uber Eats, or one of the, restaurant kind of delivery services. So making sure we just have our basic everyday needs met is important too. And I just want to pause for a second. I know I see a question in the chat box regarding services, and thank you for acknowledging the services. And it sounds like you are looking to understand when it might be the right time for you to have this planning done, and when it might make sense for someone to start working with with the care manager for their own planning versus maybe for their loved one or parent who they've first helped. And I would say it's never too early. The start right, we call it a start right assessment and plan of care, because as we age, no matter what it is, you want to have some of these things identified and in place. And I think COVID has brought that to light more than ever. You could have been, a perfectly healthy person who unfortunately got hit with COVID, and it's, hopefully, survived through that, but it's really taken people down to the point where I think we've recognized that we don't have a solid plan in place. And so we can't just wait till, well, the 70s and 80s is a good time to get this done. So I would encourage, and that goes both on the elder law legal perspective as well as care management. Lynn, I don't know if you thoughts you want to add to that for.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It is, especially because, I was, the caregiver child. So your focus is on your parent. Your focus is on taking care of them. And oftentimes we have like the adult children accompany their parents, to appointments to talk about their estate plan. And, it's so funny because you see the light go on. It's like, I don't have anything good in place. For what I have was from 20, 30 years ago. And, my minor kids are now in their 30s or whatever. And, they don't want to go stay with Aunt Susie or whatever, because they're, that's a joke because obviously they wouldn't need it. But it's really funny in that, especially while you have that generation above you, you tend to think that you're protected from any incapacity or death. And one of the things, I'm sure you see it with all the care, healthcare work you do, what we do with estate planning and elder law is, we see that a lot of things happen. Life is uncertain. And the best thing you can do is to plan for it, not just for yourself, but it's the gift that you can give to your family so that they're not ending up in a courtroom because there's no documents or nothing is set up in the correct way. So yeah, it's taking responsibility. It's being proactive. Sadly, I know people who are much younger that have had strokes or become incapacitated, or much younger in their 50s or 60s who have passed away, and nobody ever expected that, right? We all want to live for a good long life, but yeah, I'm definitely encouraging people, and that's one of the reasons we're talking today about just taking simple steps to figure out what you can do to get things in order, and then hopefully you won't need it, but if you do need it, it's there. Yeah. So I guess that takes us to week 4 or week 5, whatever it comes to on the checklist, which is from the legal perspective, come on in, sign your estate planning documents. We go over them with the client at that time as well. Make sure that they're understood. So, one of the things that I tell people is, until you've actually signed your documents and with the formalities that the law requires, your documents aren't in place. So they actually need to be signed to be executed. Wills in front of 2 witnesses, they have to be notarized, the witness. There's a lot of legal formalities that come with it. And that the law requires that to protect you so that people aren't, people aren't having you sign a document that's really not your document. There's lots of online forms and this and that, and I understand why people, prefer those. They might be free or cost $49.99. You're putting things at risk if you do that. Part of seeing an attorney is that you should expect and you deserve good legal counsel. That's the value of the attorney. Yes, our documents are excellent, but that's not the point. The point of it is that, just like Jennipher was, alluding to, with all their knowledge and all of the resources, sometimes you just need somebody who's a professional to help you understand what is the best thing for you. And you get that through meeting with a professional, like a care manager, like an estate planning attorney. And one of the things I did want to mention in this COVID era is that, just like we're doing now, there's online ways to do this. If you're more comfortable not coming in to an office, even an office like ours where we do safe practices, follow all guidelines to minimize any risks. Some people say, I would prefer just to do it via Zoom, and we're happy to accommodate that. But that really is, you know, that step in the legal process, which is, you know, come on in and sign those documents. That's what's important from the legal perspective. Get them in place, because until they're in place, they're not there. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's a good point too, Lynn, about the virtual services and being able to, like you said, whether it's by Zoom or otherwise, facilitate care from and legal services without having to necessarily come into our offices. And I think that is one of the really nice benefits, is being able to be mobile. You know, as care managers, we're used to doing probably 95% of our work either in the home with our clients or with their medical providers and that kind of thing. We've got a great safe practices for COVID as well here in our office, but it's just an option, you know, so it's nice to know you've got some flexibility there. Week 4 on that for the healthcare perspective. Well, you know, on the checklist, I say COVID testing and vaccine education and just understanding what your options are. Honestly, that could be anywhere throughout this process. You don't have to wait till week 4. In fact, it's probably better you not, as I really think about this. And that's why I want to talk a little bit today about what the options there are. Hopefully, you've had some success getting tested when you needed to be tested, and hopefully, you know, vaccinated. I can tell you, we see it every day that there's so much confusion around the options. It changes sometimes by the hour, definitely by the day. It doesn't matter if you're looking on, you know, CDC or Department of Health or whatever, or Washington or Spokane region. It's very confusing. And so that is something that we as care managers and as a company have been really successful in helping our clients navigate. And like I said, not only having our care staff vaccinated, but being able to ensure that our clients get access to the vaccinations. And because anybody right now, we are in phase 1B in Washington. So anybody who is 65 years and older should qualify for the vaccine. In fact, to the question earlier, if you're 50 years and older and you're working, you live in a multi-generational household, you also, if you're maybe caring for a parent or a loved one, but you're under 65, you also are currently able to qualify for vaccination. In the Spokane region, we currently have 2 Pfizer and Moderna vaccinations. And just a couple resources I wanted to give you. The first is 211. I don't know if any of you have ever called 211 before, but it covers a variety of things. So it's a great resource if you need help in your communities. Right now, they've got a big helpline for COVID, all things COVID. This is testing, it's the vaccinations, questions you have regarding anything. And so 211 is a good resource for you. In addition, covidwa.gov, and maybe Colleen, if you'd be willing to put those up for me, sure would be nice to have everyone have access to those. But covidwa.gov.com is one of the best resources we've found for getting up to date, and this updates like by, I think, the minute, of who has vaccine sites available. You've probably seen in the paper and on the news the mass vaccination clinics at the Spokane Arena, and Chaz Health is the one, you know, providing those clinics. Multi-Care has been very actively involved in vaccinations. What we've found is our clients go on to book or they call, and it's I don't want to say selling out, but it's booking up within, you know, 15 minutes, sites down, you know, you can no longer access. And what we found is many of our clients, you know, they don't like to use the computer. They might not even really have a computer they use. And so we're able to help just facilitate that booking and stay on top of it, because it really takes just persistence, just continuing to try and look. Right now, there's a couple different sites. Consistent Care Services is one who has had open schedule. I've seen a lot of appointments available just in this past week. So we'll put that site up for you. Oh, thanks so much. It's up now, Colleen, for doing that. And that's another good resource for you to access, and it will tell you right when you get there all the options for vaccination and who has appointments available.
Which site is that, Jennipher?
That's the covidwa.com.
Okay.
And if you're someone who doesn't have, like I said, either doesn't use, technology or computers, having trouble, you can call the 211 helpline and they will help get you scheduled. So those are kind of the two options there as well.
And I would assume that you help your clients get scheduled.
Absolutely, yes. And that's been a huge initiative of ours, is to make sure that everyone is vaccinated, who wanted to be, of course, when that option came available recently. So that's been a great thing we've been able to successfully help our clients do. And then testing, I just wanted to mention, I think testing's been around long enough. We kind of know the ins and outs, but the one thing I do want to mention that there are different options. You can go to a pharmacy to get tested. It could be a Rite Aid or Walgreens. Some of them have drive-through testing, but you can also go to urgent care. So if you have symptoms or you're not feeling well, it's a good idea versus just doing the mobile, like drive-through type testing at a pharmacy, that you actually are seen by a provider. And so that's a good time to see urgent care. There's also options like Crown Health and Dispatch Health. These are services, I'll speak specifically about Dispatch Health, is a really great service in the area, who it's like ER in a car. They come with like this whole kit and this whole car that's like decked out to bring hospital level care, emergency room care to you in your home. And it's pretty fabulous. They do the testing. So when we've had clients who we've been concerned about, rather than them trying to, drag out to urgent care or the hospital, we've been able to bring that testing right to them. So there's some great options out there right now for all of that. One thing I don't have on the checklist, and sorry, Lynn, taking a lot of time, but I just want to mention really quick, I should include this because our mental health and our mental wellness is a really important thing to take stock of right now. We've, through quarantines and isolation and the inability to connect with those we love at the same level of frequency, is really leaving our aging population and our elderly faced with some serious, not even just our elderly, everyone faced with some, really serious challenges, and depression, anxiety, of course, greatly on the rise. And so having access to counseling and mental health services, we never want to forget that. It's a really important thing. There's, we offer counseling services here. We have a wonderful mental health counselor, Becky Tiller, who has provided this valuable service in the community for the last 16 years, I think. So, but there's other wonderful services out there, and the idea is get the help, reach out. There's virtual care and people who come to your home and people you can go see in an office at this current point in time. So important thing I just wanted to touch on there.
Jennipher, you have given so much good information. I mean, there's so many good resources out there that people aren't even thinking about. So, I mean, it's just a wealth of information just by tapping into your brain. Any of your clients, anybody would definitely benefit from that. So thank you so much for sharing that. That's really good information. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you.
There was one on the chat here. I see a question about how you, and this is probably more appropriate for you, Jennipher. How do you facilitate communications between spouses or among family when there's disagreements? I mean, we as, a law firm, we sit down and we have those discussions, try to reach agreement, but it's really a little bit outside of our province to be getting into. Maybe more what you do or what Becky does is really having those family discussions and dynamics so that everybody can work it out, so everybody is on the same page, so there aren't disagreements. Is that something that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think it all starts with the plan, right? So the more you can have outlined, the better it is in these situations. Does that mean that everybody's going to agree? Not necessarily. There could still be some disagreements, and yes, we do see that. And, you know, I think as a care manager, we're a professional, unbiased third party. That makes a huge difference when you enter these emotional conversations of caring for my loved one. Some family often think, well, I think mom or dad need to move. Others think we should keep them in their home. Some think they should not spend their money. Some think they should. Lynn, I think you probably see this every day. It's complex. There's a web and huge amount of emotions surrounding these decisions. And, you know, oftentimes it's just having that professional who is skilled in having these difficult conversations and being able to facilitate a healthy conversation where everyone's heard, but where we can really focus in on too, what is that individual's wishes? What do they desire? What does that look like? And we can focus back there and then come to some agreements.
Jennipher, that is so important. And we tell our clients that all the time, especially when, like, maybe what the client is dealing with is it's going to need to be a move from the home to a facility, from, you know, taking care of mom or dad or your spouse in the home, and now it has to go to a facility. How do you choose a facility? But beyond that, what you were just talking about was having that outside professional to be able to be the person who's communicating that, you know, this change is going to need to happen. You know, if it's just between spouses, there could be this disagreement and this, no, it's not going to happen. But when you bring in that outside professional to say, you know, to talk about the change that will have to be made, I've seen it make all the difference in the world, that whomever is going to need to move to a facility is going to go, okay, I'll do that. I mean, I have actually seen that happen. So that, I think, is one of extremely important role that a care manager can play to really help the family dynamics and help with the best decision making. So.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it is education. You know, oftentimes we don't know what we don't know, and until we're faced with it and in the thick of it, and especially if we haven't gone through a process to do some of this pre-planning, when we're faced with these challenges, and as a family faced with these challenges, there's oftentimes, due to a lack of knowledge, and misinformation, some pretty strong feelings that once we're able to work through, you know, helping people better understand what their options are, what does the bigger picture look like, and how can we work through these challenges. It really, just educating is one of the best ways we can help smooth out the, you know, challenging family dynamics and situations that occur with, you know, these aging issues.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I am not seeing any more questions in the chat box. If there are any more, let's take a look here. So I want to thank everybody for being with us today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. I hope what we provided will be helpful to you or to friends or family members. Feel free to share this information. I think we will probably be able to send you links for information. And if you have any questions for, you know, me, for Elder Law Group, feel free to reach out to us. Again, our phone number was in the chat box, but I'll repeat it. It's 509-468-0551. Or you can go to our website, elderlawgroupwa.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions. And Jennipher, you provided amazing resources. Can you please share with us your contact information again?
Yeah, absolutely. So 509-326-5525 is our phone number. And you can also reach us or visit our website at familyfirstseniorcare, it's a long one, .com, familyfirstseniorcare.com. So, but yeah, we definitely appreciate you joining in today and taking your, valuable time just to hear a little bit more about how to plan and be prepared.
All right.
So, and thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.